they heard from Atinos, but they replicated that into two separate but complementary messages, and they applied that first and foremost to the house of the person. They said other things too, but the first thing they because the person's probably his most prominent extension of himself is his house, right? Aside from himself and maybe his family members, his children, his wife, those are extensions to himself, but they're also independent entities themselves. But the house is like an extension of the person. So they received from Antigonus, they applied that message to the house. Now he's going to show how the whole thing is fitting into place here. It says that as V'tavim Yizel, and understand from this, Kol Seder Adon, understand the whole arrangement of all these things. Ki Anshe Knesset Gedola. Now we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of the parak, and he's going to give a summary. Go ahead, Jan, continue, please.
Ki Anshe Knesset Hagedola, Hichilu, they began. I'm not sure what this means.
Begimel Divrei Musar.
Begimel Divrei Musar, Asher Hem Sichim.
Shaychim. They're associated. Connected or associated.
Okay. El HaTorah, Shehu al HaKol. It is like everything.
Right. That had to do with Torah. That was like Nesunim B'din. You should be deliberate in your judgments. You should be Maimed Tamidim Harbe, right? And you should also Sayag the Torah, make a fence for the Torah. That was something which was associated, connected to the Torah directly.
Some Kashmir, there's milk around.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's in the
refrigerator.
There's yesterday. Oh yeah, so you want to bring it? Put it on the table? You do have it on the table? Thank you, Yisrael. Very important. Thank you.
Listen, Rebbe, I wasn't an 8 o'clock person. It's small traffic.
Oh, well, you came pretty good today. You came okay today.
Yeah, I was on 8 o'clock person.
You want to put in the coffee now? You have it.
You can't decide if it's a lot of traffic, you can decide if it's very little traffic.
Yeah, okay. Everything's going to show up. You do your status.
Okay.
Try and get on that bus, whatever it's 7:30 bus, 8:30 bus.
8 o'clock is...
So you try and get on the bus. If the bus is going to be late, look, you're not driving the bus. No. Look, if we can get you a helicopter, we will have the Tsama Nafshi helicopter. You go around from neighborhood to neighborhood and pick everybody up. We'll buy a helicopter and a pilot. And we'll bring them here. You can land right here in the park. And the park here is a beautiful helicopter port. We can land people right away.
Yeah, it's enough. I did try.
You're going to come by helicopter from now on?
Is that okay today?
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. So the first, I mean, if after from Moshe to Yeshua, and then from Yeshua to the Zikanim, and the Zikanim to the Nevi'im, and the Nevi'im finally to Nafshi Knesset Gedola. So now, and at that, up until then, there was never a mention of what was being transferred. There was no mention in the parak of Avos what was mentioned from Moshe to Yeshua, from Yeshua to the Zikanim, from the Zikanim to the Nevi'im, from the Nevi'im to Nafshi Knesset Gedola. There was no mention at all, no details at all of what was mentioned. No understanding, right, that we're taught. Good morning.
Good morning.
But when it came to the Anshe Knesset Gedola, now all of a sudden, now we're being taught pratim, we're being taught details, right? And those 3 details that the Anshe Knesset Gedola taught us had to do with Torah, and had to, as the Maharal says, Shuhu Al-Kol. He's saying that because Torah is over everything. Torah is primary, right? Torah has to do with, without Torah you don't have the basis or the foundation, right? You can't get started.
כי כל גמל דברים מן אנשי כנסת הגדולה הם תקנו תורה והספר הן במשפט הן דברי תורה הן במצוות התורה because the 3 things from the אנשי כנסת הגדולה they were to establish the Torah and the wisdom, intelligence, in Bamishpat they were in justice, in the great Torah, and they were like for mitzvahs of the Torah. Devarim elu Kolulim. כוללים כל אשר שייך לתורה.
All these things include everything which is associated to the Torah.
Okay. והתורה היא על כל המציאות ועל כל העולם. And the Torah, it
supersedes,
supersedes,
or it's supreme over all,
over everything, everything in the world.
Whole existence and everything that's in the world. So that's why they began with that. That's why the Anshe Knesset Gadol, when it was detailed for us, their messaging the details were specifically in aspects that had to do with Torah itself.
What does this acronym mean?
V'achar kach, afterwards, right? Shimon HaTzadik. Now he came afterwards.
ואחר כך בא שמעון הצדיק לתקן עמדי העולם, to establish the foundations or the columns of the world, שהוא למטה מן התורה, that are beneath
the Torah. Right, so it says we have the Anshe Knesset Gadol. Said three things which have to do with the preservation and the existence of Torah, which is supreme over everything. After that came Shimon HaTzadik, and he set up the three pillars of the world, which are below the Torah. They're next below the Torah.
What's he saying?
He's giving you a picture of what the transmission was. As it's being revealed to us in this Perek in Avos, he's giving you a picture of the different levels and stages of the transmission.
אחר כך אנטיגונוס, תלמידיו, his student, לתקן האדם עצמו, to establish man himself, שהוא עיקר בעולם, which is the essence of the world. והוא כמו עולם, and he is like the universe. He's like a small universe.
Nature universe, right?
Olam b'pnei atzmo. He's like a small world himself, basically.
Good.
ואחר כך חזו הראשון באו לתקן ביתו של אדם. Then the first pair came to establish like the concept of his house, the house of man. שיהיה that be like שיהיה דומה ומטה us.
Yachis, it's doima, the bias of the house of the person is doima, it's similar. Misyachis es adam atzmon, it has a connection, a relation to the person himself.
Matichas is connection.
Misyachis, I mean when you yichus is like your yichus is called your
lineage.
Lineage, right? Exactly. It's a relation, so it's related to. It's yachis. It's related to the person himself.
B'chol davar.
The cold over. Meaning the house is so absolutely attached to the person that it has a connection, a relation directly with the person himself in all ways. Kimoshe kasev.
What does that mean? Kamo?
Kimoshe kasev, as has been written.
Shik. Kimoshe katav v'zehu haseder be'emet v'iror, and like choosing.
It's clear, and it's clear.
Oh, it's clear.
Right. And this, based on what he said the Anshe Knesset Gadol, they brought down things which had to do with the Torah itself, which is supreme. Afterwards, there was Shimon HaTzadik, who came to teach us about the three pillars of the world, right? Which which come after the. So you have Torah, then you have the Olam, the world itself, then you have man, right, and then you have the bias, the bias, the person's house. So you have these from Anshe Knesset Gadol. You have the first thing that's teaching us about Torah. After that you have Shimon HaTzadik, which is teaching about the world. Then you have Antikus, which is teaching about the person, And then you have the first pair, Yossi ben Eliezer and Yossi ben Yochanan, that are teaching about the bias. So you have the world, you have the Torah, the world, the person, and his house. 4 things which have the structure of the world, as we're being taught in Avos. That's one way of looking at the world. You have Torah, the world, then you have the person, and then you have his house.
So we learned that the world is the foundation of the Torah.
The pillar there, al shlosha amudi ha'olam oimen. On three things the world depends. Torah, Avodah, Megillah, Nusasam. And you want the world to exist properly, you have to have Torah, Avodah, Megillah, Nusasam.
But didn't we say also that the first was the Torah,
Right.
and then beneath the Torah there were the pillars.
There were the 3 pillars, right?
Like the foundation of the Torah.
Yes. Right. Well, I mean, it's that which, as Rabbeinu Yonah taught us, HaKodesh Baruch Hu created the world in order that these 3 things should exist. You ask anybody, what's the world for? What do we need a world for? So, what do you need? Why do we need a world? So, there should be a world, so there should be a place for Torah to be learned. I mean, there should be avoda, that's the korbanos when you have a base of mikdash, or prayer, and we have no base of mikdash, and given us to something, there should be acts of kindness. So you need a physical place for these things to occur. So that's the whole purpose of the creation of the world. There should be a physical place for these 3 things to exist. Right?
So can we say that there are 3 pillars to the Torah? One is learning, one is acts of kindness, and one is davening?
Well, what the Ramchal says over here, I think that's what you're trying to express over here. When it says over here that it says here, Shimon Tzadek Takein Amudia Olam Shu Matam in the Torah. It didn't say that these Amudia Olam are the basis or the foundation for Torah, but they just says that they're below the Torah. I mean, that's the next stage below. First, you have the Torah, which is supreme, right? That's the absolute. When you think about how this world is structured, you have to have it structured through Torah, right? Just like you take. It's like saying that DNA is the structure of the person. So if you know anything about what the DNA is all about, right, for any living organism, right, that's the code by which HaKodesh Baruch Hu uses for everything to be generated biochemically. What it's all about, right? So the DNA is beyond and supreme of everything. If you have to preserve whatever you need to do to preserve the DNA, you must preserve the DNA. Right?
If you don't have the DNA, you don't have life.
You can't replicate it. I mean, whatever, either from one entity to another, or even regeneration of cells or anything like that. Whatever,
So I want to extend that, and I want to say, if you don't have learning and good deeds and service to Hashem, then you don't have Torah.
Well, you won't have a world. See, I'm trying to integrate what you're saying, but there are a couple of things that are standing in my way. For one thing, that the Torah is somewhat independent, right, from this world. It's something which is really beyond this world. It's something which existed previous to this world, right? So it's the Torah is really the Torah in brief, as a brief explanation as possible. The Torah is really the Ratzon of the HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Right? We have a written Torah, which is the written will of the HaKodesh Baruch Hu. The Torah which is the oral explanation, complementary will of the HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Right? So if you use that definition, just like a HaKodesh Baruch Hu is not dependent on anything that's worldly, likewise the Torah is not independent on anything that's worldly, right?
Right.
In a certain way, the Torah needs to be learned, because to fulfill the Ratzon of Hashem, you have to understand the Ratzon of Hashem. You have to learn the Torah, right? So in order to do these things, you have to be able to sit and learn. So it's needed that people come and learn. It's not something which is abstract, which is innate and uninvolved with the world. The Ratzon, just like a king issues a proclamation, right? If the king doesn't have a populace, so what good is the proclamation, right? The proclamation of the king is only good enough if he has a citizency and his citizens, right?
Right.
There's a populace.
So
He
in
has no
Hashem's
populace.
case, we would say that if Hashem had no subjects, that would not take away from Hashem.
Correct.
Hashem would still be Hashem,
Correct.
but we couldn't call Hashem a king.
Oh, exactly. This point. See, this point. I wrote an article. I was writing an article based on this sequel from Scheinberg's Tsama. This was the exact point of the article. It was published in I think the TED in America, one of the American English newspapers. This was the exact point, based on Rishonim, that a HaKodesh Baruch Hu, on Rosh Hashanah we call a HaKodesh Baruch Hu king, right? But yet, HaKodesh Baruch Hu is independent from this world. It's not dependent on this world. So how can we say that by calling HaKodesh Baruch Hu king, so that's exactly the point. I mean, a king can be a king, right? But a king without a populace, right, is lacking. Is lacking, right? So, but he can't really say that HaKodesh was lacking, right? But you see, when Melech Sidonim was captured by Avraham Avinu, right? So there was an exchange that took place between the two of them. Avraham Avinu was the ruler now, and the Melech Sidonim says this: "Do me a favor, I'll give you all the booty, right? All the riches. Just give me the people." Right? Avraham Avinu said, "I don't even want a shoestring from you. I want nothing from you." Right? Take everything. And he actually, in certain ways, he's criticized by giving the people back to Sodom. Should have kept the people to try and encourage them and keep them, bring them into Kodesh Baruch Hu. But so I forget to say that's another subject. But what was Melech Sodom interested in? He was willing to give up all his wealth. He wanted people, right? Because there are a lot of rich people in the world. Billionaires, right? But they're not kings, right? And you have kings that are not necessarily so rich. Right? They're richer people than the kings in the world, even the time when there were kings. Haman was richer than Achashverosh, right? But he wasn't king. Haman wasn't king. But a king without a populace, right? Amrav Hadjus Melech. We say the multitudes of the masses are the king's glory. Right? That filters down to halacha. The halachas which are built on that premise, right? Kiddush Levanit should be done in a group, right? Kriyas Megillah should be done in a group. It says Amrav Hadjus Melech. The multitudes of the masses are the glory of the king. When everyone gets together to hear Megillah together in one big shul, that shows that's pursuing Nisa in a very different way than it's simply just a few people are meeting here and a meeting there and a meeting in another place, right? So necessary as a definition to be a king, right, that there is a populace, right? So likewise, but when Hashem obviously cannot be detracted as to whether or not there's a world or not. But when there is a world, there is an aspect of Malchus, of the king's sovereignty, Hashem's sovereignty and his kingship, which is there, there is no world that doesn't exist. At least in the olam of Maisa, in the olam that we exist in the physical world of doing things, in the world of behavior. So our getting together on Rosh Hashanah to call HaKodesh Baruch Hu king is very significant.
Right. So what I want to say is that the Torah, just like if we say Hashem is independent, has independent existence, it doesn't belong to us. The Torah is also true. But in terms of the Torah in this world, if nobody were doing any service, or nobody were doing any good deeds, or nobody were doing any learning, so the Torah would not be in this world.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have a pair of glasses, right? If no one will ever wear those pair of glasses, it's still a pair of glasses.
Right.
But there's something, it's not, you can't say it's lacking something physical, but it's lacking its purpose, it's lacking its mission, it's lacking its tachlis, right?
Right. So can we go a step further in terms of drawing the analogy and say that the house is the foundation of the person? That the house doesn't have its aspects that the Yosis are telling us, then that's telling us that the person is alive.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is a parallelism.
Definitely. So they're telling you should have, your house should be a base father for coming. It should be Pesach L'Revacha and Aniyim Be'enei Beis Secha. We're telling you these things because you need to have these things. Excuse me. And if you don't have them, there's a lack in the function of the house.
Of the person.
And
therefore by extension of the person.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly, because Hashem is called a Melech. So therefore everybody you can be called a Ben Melech.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't get it. Everybody's a Ben Melech, so then
If everyone's a Ben Melech, yeah, okay.
we deal about it.
Yeah, but look, to know that we're all princes, true, we're all princes.
So then you has meanings.
Well,
Like you say now, kings when you have people under you.
right. Well, I mean, look, the pasuk says, "Melechus Kohanim, Am Kodesh Melechus Kohanim." Right? Pasuk does so. You have to understand. Okay, you have to look at the understand the pasuk there. But you're right. It's like. More Baba.
So forth. I don't know why people don't notice it.
Yeah.
It says when the Yidden went down to Mitzrayim, they would give all the man gold and silver. If it lays around, it's not worth too much.
True. Yeah. They went out with tremendous wealth. Nevertheless, you
Diamonds
saw.
are diamonds because they're not so available.
Yeah. Nevertheless, when they ran out of the water, they ran out of water. When they ran out of food, they ran out of food. They had tremendous wealth. But when there's no water, there's no water. I don't know what you're going to do with all the wealth. Now you can't buy it.
Why it happened to it this year?
Good question.
Easy come, easy go.
I don't know. I haven't seen too much talk about it.
I saw a little bit there.
I mean, in spite of that fact, I was very impressed with the fact that Parshas Mishpatim, it starts with the commands of Eved Ivri. Right? I mean, everyone came out with such wealth in Mitzrayim, so
Right.
who's interested in stealing? Who doesn't have what to pay it back with? Right? It's negative Parsha. Yeah, it's negative Parsha. Mine Shmita Etzl Har Sinai. So you can ask, don't ask on this week's Parsha. Go back to Mishpatim. Mine Shmita Eved Ivri Etzl Har Sinai. Every reason they get to Har Sinai.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can ask the same question on the Midrash that says that the lowliest maidservant was at the level of a prophet.
Right.
So what do you mean the lowliest maidservant? Who's a maidservant? Everybody was a maidservant in Egypt, right? Except the Levium maybe. So who's a maidservant now? Nobody should be a maidservant.
Yeah, very good. I like that. I like that. That's a good question. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure it's.
That may have been an expression for a slang person. It's still
Yeah. I'm sure it's. I'd like to get a hezbollah on that. That's for sure. Okay, we'll take a quick break and continue with Mishnah Berurah. Thank you.